The Samsung Galaxy A50 was released in March 2019. However, it wasn't released in the US. It was only available in Asia and Latin America. In September 2019, they finally released it into the US. So today we're going to take a look at the Galaxy A50, and this is the US model. So let's take a look at what this phone is and where it stands. The Galaxy A50 is a mid-range device priced at $349.99. You can purchase it unlocked on the store, but it only comes in the black color that has this little gradient on the back. For some reason, Samsung only sells this color for the US, and also the model in the US has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. There's no 128 gigabyte option, and we don't get the 6 gigabytes of RAM either. The phone has a 6.4-inch 1080p display with a 4000 mAh battery. The back is made out of plastic and the front is glass, but it's Gorilla Glass 3, so it's not using the latest and greatest as the flagship phones. When you first look at the back of the phone, you'll notice that there's 3 cameras, or at least that's what I thought it was. However, there's actually 2 cameras, and that is a ultra-wide camera and a standard camera. The third camera is a depth sensor camera. Then this is the camera that makes that depth of field effect when you use the option in the camera. It does not have a triple camera setup like the Note 10, for instance, which has a true triple camera setup. Interestingly, it retains the headphone jack, which was very surprising to see. However, since this phone did come out in March of this year, I would wonder if the next generation will have this or not, since the Note 10 got rid of the headphone jack. The cameras on the back has a 25 megapixel camera, which is the wide angle, and there's an 8 megapixel ultra wide. The depth sensor is 5 megapixels. On the front we have a single camera. This is a 25 megapixel wide angle camera. Thanks to the phone's plastic body, it weighs only 166 grams and it feels really light in the hand, especially compared to something like a Note 10. It really makes a difference in the hand, and the size is great. It's not too big and it's not too small. It fits in the hand just right. Surprisingly, this phone is up to date. When I first got this phone, which was a couple of weeks ago, it was running a August 2019 patch, and immediately I was able to get the October update, and just a few days ago I got the November update. So they're still updating the phone, and it's running the latest Android 9 version from Samsung. The One UI version is 1.1. It's not 1.5 like the S10 and Galaxy Note 10, so there's a few things missing. But overall, they are updating it, and it works fine on T-Mobile and AT&T. Those are both tested by me. There's some people saying it doesn't work on Verizon on Amazon, so I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't have a Verizon SIM card, but it does work on T-Mobile and on AT&T, and you do get LTE support. Wi-Fi calling works on T-Mobile, but don't expect anything from AT&T in that regard. Surprisingly, for a US phone, the CPU is the Exynos 9610. Normally, the US gets the Snapdragon model, so this is still running the exact same hardware as the international model, except for it doesn't have the dual SIM card. It has a single SIM and a micro SD slot, which, by the way, is great for expandable storage. The second SIM tray is actually blocked off, so I'm curious to know if you were to outsource a dual SIM tray, would it actually allow 2 SIMs? I was quite surprised by the display. It has a 6.4-inch AMOLED display, and I'm so glad Samsung did not cheap out on this display. It looks quite good, and it looks almost as good as the flagship devices, so I was really happy to see that. However, Samsung did not give it the same treatment in the speakers. The speakers do not sound that great. There's only one speaker. It doesn't have the dual speaker support. So let's take a look at how it sounds and compare it to a Note 10. As you've heard hopefully in the video, the A50 just doesn't have that same clarity and depth as the flagship devices. The sound sounds kind of muffled and low definition. Another thing I noticed is the phone seems kind of laggy after running a couple of apps. So if you open up a couple of apps on both phones here, you'll notice that while the phone seems like it's kind of keeping up with my note, after a couple of apps are opened, as you can see, it's a bit slower there. But just the animation, like if I switch the apps, the animation just doesn't feel as smooth. So this might be because of the 6 gigabytes of RAM, but I'm thinking it's more along because of the processor. There's lots of videos online that show the phone running smoothly, but from everyday use, the phone does lag sometimes. As you can see, there's a bit of a lag from going to the home screen. Another thing with the camera is when you take pictures, it feels like it's kind of slow, whereas on a flagship, it's like instant. The colors on the Note 10 look a lot more natural than the A50. Second of all, even though it's a high resolution camera, the Note 10's image is actually sharper. This has a lower megapixel camera. This has a 25 megapixel camera. And you can see that the quality is just not as good. In terms of the front facing camera, it's not too bad actually. But the skin tone is kind of oversaturated. And again, the resolution is just not there. My Note looks sharp in real life, but the A50 doesn't look as sharp. The phone supports fast charging 15 watts, but it does not have wireless charging. So the camera also features a fingerprint reader, but I found it to be very inaccurate. Sometimes it will not work, as you can see, and sometimes it works. The phone also has a face unlock, which works really well. Instantly unlocks. Overall, with that said, for $349.99, this is actually not a bad phone. I may have complained a lot about it, but I come from flagship, so it's kind of hard for me to just use a phone like this for a couple of weeks. But I can recommend this at $349.99. It is over $700 cheaper than my Note 10. So to put something into perspective, that's a lot of money. So it's a great phone overall. If you don't mind the slightly slower speed with a little bit of lag here and there, it's not a bad phone. I definitely can recommend this. And for $349.99, you can actually find this even cheaper. Right now, they're having a sale for $299 on Samsung's website. So be sure to check that out. I'm glad they're bringing the A50 to the US. I'm hoping they do the same next year with the newer phones. I really just hope they bring them at the same time though, because from what I can see, nothing was changed on this phone. This is literally the same phone that was released in Latin America earlier in the year. So they just changed the model number as far as I can tell. CPU, RAM, and everything's the same as that model. So hopefully we'll see more of these phones. And there's also the A20 and the A10 that are even cheaper than this phone. So Samsung's mid-range devices are finally starting to come up. I remember they used to be not as great, but now they're pretty good. So with that said, if you have any questions about the phone, let me know in the comments. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.